Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 37 male family comes from and is a long line of doctors. Being a doctor is the only acceptable profession in their eyes, and anything aside from that is met with literal abandonment. Which is what happened to me when I turned 17 and told my family I was not going to be a doctor, but to build an acting career, social media career, and supplement my income with small business endeavors. When I told my family this, they kicked me out, and we subsequently lost contact for 17 years. During that time, they moved to the UK, and my sister became a doctor, and my older brother got into a very competitive stream for surgery, neurosurgery, specializing in spinal tumor diagnosis and removal, which he has now finished. We reconnected when virus hit, and they told me they were moving back to Sydney for lifestyle reasons, and because my brother has found a $750,000 a year job. During the last 2 years, they never asked me how my acting career, social media stuff went, and basically assumed I was just slumming it in Sydney. To their credit, they were correct in that I didn't make it big in acting. Maybe the world wasn't ready for a mainstream leading role Indian, or make it at all. I did, however, make it big as an investment banker and recently made partner at the bank I work at. This came to a head on Friday when I met them for house shopping. I walked to meet them, and when they asked me about my car, I just said I preferred to walk. And they realized the areas they wanted to live, despite being highly paid medical professionals, simply weren't going to be happening, as the houses cost north of $20 million. When we decided to call it a day and regroup, they suggested going to my place before going out to dinner. When we arrived at my house, they thought I was renting a room and inquired how much rent was. I informed them that I wasn't renting and that this was my house. They lost their crap, accusing me of lying to them for years and only meeting up to rub their face in my probably illegal gained wealth, and capped it off by informing me that they will be living with me now instead of with my oldest brother, since they can't be seen in a worse house than their son. I laughed at them and reminded them that they bet on my brother and sister, not me, and that they have a better chance of living with my neighbors than me. At that point, they threatened to cut me out of their will, to which I reminded them of the fact that they can't even afford to buy in my area, so their will and assets don't really matter to me. Now they aren't talking to me, and my brother and sister are saying I should have been proactive in letting them know about my success. I have a public LinkedIn profile, so they literally never Googled me. Edit. Getting a lot of hate about including the term social media influencer in my post. To clarify, this was 19 years ago, and I believe social media influencer is probably the updated term for socialite. I wanted to be famous, but I had no real skills or plan as to how I was going to achieve that goal, like most social media people. Edit 2. A lot of people are critical that my family just kicked me out, or that it's unlikely a parent would do this. Obviously, I wasn't a great child in their eyes in general, and this was the final straw, so to speak. Also, Desi parents are a different level of parents, from washing your father's feet to not speaking unless spoken to, not allowed to talk to the opposite sex, and viewing the head of house as an almost god figure. It's a bit different. Desi parents are also incredibly strict. Not like your room needs to be clean strict, but like clean the entire house, wash the cars, wash and iron everyone's clothes, or you're getting beaten with a broom. For the people talking about house prices, yeah, Sydney is whack. House prices jump around a bit too, of course, but generally speaking, if you live in a house on the harbor, it wasn't cheap. Our former project manager lived in a $70 million to $90 million home, house at Point Piper. Decisions have repercussions. They basically disowned OP for not following their desired path. But now that OP's own path panned out, they've got their hands out making requests. OP needs to cut them off. Not the a-hole. Let them know you're successful. Why? So they'd talk to you again, simply to see what they can get out of you? Thanks, but no thanks. You handled this just right. They cut you out when you informed them that you were refusing to fit into their mold that they wanted you to fit into. They spat on your goals, even if the acting gigs didn't pan out, and then cut you out of their lives until it was convenient for them to have you back in their lives. You owe your parents no updates on your success when they had made it clear that they were not willing to support any other routes to success if it wasn't what fit their rigid definitions. From one child cut out of their parents' wills because of petty drama to another, you are not the a-hole. My 40 male daughter Lily, 14 female, was always described by others as a great kid. As our only child, hubby and I put a lot of effort into raising Lily to the best of our abilities. We always expressed to her the importance of being thankful and polite, and how consistent hard work can get her anywhere in life. We made sure she was well socialized and encouraged every hobby she had. As a result, Lily grew up to be a kind and polite kid. She has a passion for learning and is one of the top students in her school. She has many friends, hobbies, and even recently won first place at a music competition. The same cannot be said about her cousin Mandy, 13 female. Mandy is very rude and inconsiderate. She is spoiled and will throw temper tantrums whenever she doesn't get her way. From what I've heard, she is constantly called a nightmare at school and is very close to failing and staying a grade behind. Despite all of this, my sister-in-law Blair, 39 female, is refusing to acknowledge that her parenting had anything to do with Mandy's behavior. Last weekend, we had a family get-together at my in-laws' house. While all of the kids were playing in the yard, Lily was showing my father-in-law how she learned to play his favorite song on her violin. I was watching Lily play when Blair approached me and began complimenting me on how my daughter was such an amazing kid. After I thanked her for the compliment, Blair continued to say how she wished Mandy would achieve even half of what Lily had. She even expressed how she sometimes wished she could trade daughters with me, since raising Lily seems to be such a joy. I responded by telling her that raising Lily was no different from raising any other kid, and that the reason why she is such a joy to be around is due to the effort hubby and I put into parenting her. Blair scoffed and told me that parenting had nothing to do with it, and that Lily was a good kid from the get-go, unlike Mandy, who was a menace from day one. At this point, I couldn't help but laugh and tell Blair that how you parent your child has everything to do with how they turn out, and that I'm sure that if Lily would have been raised by her, she would turn out to be a menace just like her cousin. Blair got offended and asked me if I had just called her a bad mother. I blatantly pointed at Mandy, who was now crying and hitting her cousin after he refused to give her his toy, and asked her if this was the behavior of a child with good parents. After that, Blair quickly left and took her kids with her. This caused a huge argument in my husband's family, and soon enough, everyone began taking sides on who's right and wrong. Some are calling me an a-hole for insulting Blair's parenting like that, and although my husband is defending me publicly, he privately expressed that maybe it would have been better if I just humored Blair, and how it was unkind of me to mention how she failed as a mother. Well, that's a tricky one. Yeah, nature plays a big part, but how kids are raised makes a big difference. It would be interesting to see what Mandy would have been like had she been raised by OP and vice versa. It's important to note that Blair has multiple kids, while OP stopped at one. If OP had 3 or 4 kids, would they all be as great as Lily? Or would they not be as good? What do you guys think? Also, when it comes to OP's comments, that was a slap in OP's cousin's face. Every mother would be insulted for being called a bad parent. So maybe OP could have kept her opinion to herself. Don't you think so, guys? And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. She wasn't paying you a compliment. She was complaining about how lucky you were to have such a good kid. She was also insulting her own child and saying she was a menace from day one. Seriously, enough of people raising children like Mandy and claiming their parenting doesn't contribute or blaming the kids. You pointed to Mandy hitting her cousin. Did she actually stop the hitting? Punish her at all. Make her apologize. Everyone sucks here. Nature versus nurture. Yes, good parents can raise good kids. However, of my 2 cousins, one is a VP of technology for one of the largest cities in the U.S., and the other has a rap sheet a mile long, including carjacking, possession with intent to distribute, and M. So no, good parenting isn't 100% effective in raising a good kid. You're the a-hole. Blair paid you a compliment, and you gave her a mouthful of aggression in response. You didn't have to make it about her parenting or about her daughter. Seems like you just took the opportunity to insult your sister and niece and felt vindicated. But you were actually an a-hole. You could have simply said thank you to her compliment and left it at that. You chose not to, and to devolve it into rudeness about her and her child. That was uncalled for. Whilst I agree that parenting has a lot to do with how a child turns out, there was no need for what you said. Seems you've been a good mom, but could use some practice on being a better person. For context, I dated a narcissist for almost 10 months. He cheated on me the whole time, was emotionally aggressive, and an alcoholic. After I helped him move all weekend, he decided to dump on me the drive to his new place to drop off the remainder of his things and threatened to leave me on the side of the highway. All of my things were at his place, and I didn't even have my car keys. We also had a business intertwined together, and I got screwed out of money as well. If you've ever been with a narcissist, there are signs that they suck from very early on. He's one of those guys that claims all of his exes are crazy and loves to be the victim in any situation. His ex-girlfriend of a couple of years lived in my same apartment complex, and we had a lot of mutual friends in common. So naturally, I reached out to her because I needed to know the truth about him to validate my experiences and make sure I had the strength to never go back, as I knew he'd come back around. It was worse than I thought. He cheated on her for 5 years, was physically and emotionally aggressive, and screwed her out of close to $20,000 when she moved out. Whenever he was on vacation, she would have women from other states reaching out to her in her DMs, saying that her boyfriend slept with their roommate. She is now one of my best friends. For legal reasons, we still had to be in communication, and I wanted to make sure that I got some of the money that I was owed. I played his game well enough to get some money. After I went no contact, things were okay for a couple of months. But after his roommate's ex-girlfriend reached out to me and told me more of the awful things that he did behind my back and the awful things that he was saying about me, I decided I didn't want to keep quiet anymore. The only thing men like him care about is his reputation, so I made it my personal responsibility to ruin that. I put him on blast to a group of 50,000 women in this city, letting them know the kind of man he is. That he is aggressive, a cheater, a manipulative piece of crap, and that he's had 4 STIs in less than 6 months. I have him blocked on every platform imaginable, and he has been threatening to sue me through mutual friends for defamation for months. I had over 24 women reaching out to me after that post, letting me know that they too also had terrible experiences with him. Many of them dated him the same time that I did. Every time I grab coffee or drinks with one of them, they post on their IG story and tag me in it to let him know that they know everything. After he freaks out and sends them some crazy message, they block him. I've been doing this for months so that he knows that his reputation is still being slandered by me, simply telling the truth. After I made that post, he decided to low-key stalk me. He appeared at the place that I worked out at the exact same times I'd be there, and even showed up at the guys I was dating apartment complex the same time we were there. So I told all my friends at the gym exactly what kind of man he is and made the environment so uncomfortable for him that he no longer goes there. One of the girls that he dated when we were together is now a regular workout partner of mine. At least he has great taste in women. Another girl that I know came up to me crying at a bar because he SA'd her. I now have an army of women to support her case to make sure that she wins. This man might have treated us all horribly, but I've made amazing women friends in the process, and none of us have to go through what he did to us all alone. I ruined his reputation by telling the truth. Silence only protects men like him, so I decided to be as loud as possible about the kind of person that he is. Absolutely brilliant. By the way, it's not slander when you're telling the truth. I've often heard, if you say nothing, you're part of the problem. Well, my dear, you're the opposite of that. When you speak up, you are part of the solution. How is this dude getting so many chicks? Does he hide every red flag, or is he Brad Pitt? I'm not hating on any ladies for being duped. The crazy BS hotness scale exists for both genders for a reason. But I'm kind of impressed he's laying so much cross-country pipe. You've started a support network. I know hormones probably play a role here, but I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. My husband and I moved back here in June of 2023, and he soon became super close with the couple next door. To the point where every single day we were being invited out on the boat or over to have barbecue with them. It bothered me a great deal, honestly, because every time I said I didn't want to go, my husband would pretty much force his hand and guilt me into going, and I was pregnant and simply didn't want to be around anyone. He would say, "Well, I want to go, but if you don't go with me, then it'll make me look like a bad husband." The wife next door was also pregnant. But there's been a buildup of stuff that bothers me a lot, and yes, I have communicated it. Like last year when we were on the boat, we stopped off at one of the lake stores and my husband and the other husband went in. They asked me and the wife if we wanted anything. She had asked for like 4 or 5 different things. I asked for one very specific soda because I was craving it. When they came back out, I found that my husband had bought the other wife everything she requested. Why didn't her husband buy it? And he didn't get me anything because he forgot, and didn't go back in or anything because it was too busy and didn't want to stand in line for 20 minutes. Or if we are standing by the fire pit, he will ask the other wife if she needs a seat before he asks me. Or if he sees her grilling food, he will be like, "Here, let me do that for you." But if he sees me cooking, he never offers to take over. He also takes all the garbage to the dump for her, despite her having a husband who can do it. Will take out their dog, keep an eye on her kids so she can go to the store. But I have only taken literally 10 showers without a baby since I gave birth 6 months ago. I don't think anything is truly going on, but I know for an absolute fact that he's trying to look like a superhero, super dad, super husband to her, and he's actually not. He loves the attention he gets from doing all these favors for her, but he just doesn't do that stuff at home. He used to. Before we moved here, he used to be a great husband. Like I said, I have communicated with him that this bothers me a great deal. But he's not cheating, and he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong because he's just helping people out. But it's been dragging me. Every single time I see him do anything for her, I start resenting him more. Because it's every single day. Or every single time I watch him walk over to their house and talk to them while I'm inside cooking or parenting, destroys me. Because again, it's every single day. I told him last night that if we didn't move out of here, I will end up divorcing him. That I feel like the side piece to his real wife, talking about the woman next door. He still thinks I'm being ridiculous because there is no cheating going on. I know there's not, but that makes no difference to me. He's still panning for her approval and doing things for her, and while he did do that for me for years, he hasn't done that since we moved here. He says we can't afford to move and that he's just happy to have friends again after going years with essentially no social life. I just can't do it anymore. Stop going over there. If it makes him look like a bad husband, then tell him, well, if the shoe fits, because it's not wrong. Marriage counseling is recommended here. He's clearly into this woman, and he's willing to put his marriage at stake because he is a bad husband. Not the a-hole. Cheating is irrelevant. He's literally taking the attention away by being like, well, I'm not cheating, so you should be grateful. Being faithful is like the absolute bare minimum in a marriage, and he's just avoiding the issue. It's about him neglecting you while giving his energy and attention to something or someone else. Even if you put aside the fact that it's another woman. Say it was his male friend that he was prioritizing over you. That would still be upsetting and insulting. You're his wife and the woman raising his children. You should be his priority, and I'm sorry that you're not being treated right. He's clearly infatuated with the woman next door, and impressing her matters more to him than being a decent spouse to you. He sucks, and you deserve better. I'm not sure what the solution is, since he refuses to admit that he's doing anything wrong. Do you have any family or friends you can stay with for a bit? Maybe if you tell him you're leaving because you're done being an afterthought, it will snap him out of his fixation on the neighbor. If it doesn't, you may need to pull the pin on this dead-end marriage. Not the a-hole.